Hi, I'm Rachel Perkins and I'm going back to school with Student Edge.
Hi, I'm Simon Murado and today we're going back to school with Rachel Perkins. Hi Rachel.
Hi Simon.
Thanks for chatting with us today.
Yeah, no worries.
Tell us, what were you like as a teenager?
Look, probably quite difficult. I wanted to sort of be out in the world rather than at school, I think. I look back on that with some regret, actually, because I missed out on a really good education. But at that time, I was searching for something else. I have Indigenous heritage and I was sort of looking for Indigenous culture and Indigenous knowledge, and it wasn't really on offer at my school. So after I finished college, I just headed back to Alice Springs, which is where my father came from, and sort of found it there. But in my later life, I really regret, actually, that I didn't pursue what was on offer, you know, what was on offer from all those teachers more.
Were there subjects that you did kind of respond to, or did you feel overall, you know, this school isn't speaking to me? This is not what I want right now.
Oh, look, photography I was interested in, and, you know, and look, in the last year I was at school, they introduced sort of an Indigenous Aboriginal Studies class, but it was a very sort of archaeological based course. And I thought, well, look, I could go on to university, I could do anthropology, I could do archaeology, but actually it's a very distant way of looking at Aboriginal knowledge and Aboriginal culture. I sort of wanted to learn it from my own people, so that's why I went back to Alice Springs. But I did very well in Indigenous studies, because that was a passion of mine.
So when did filmmaking become a driving force for you?
Well, I fell into filmmaking. I was very lucky. So I think it's great if you can get into a career early that you love. So I left college in Canberra, where I'd done the bulk of my education, went up to Alice Springs to apply for this traineeship. I applied for something like a TV presenter job, which I didn't want to do, but I wanted the airfare to get to Alice. But they gave me another job in the newly established TV unit. So that was a wonderful thing. So at 18, I'd sort of found I was in this traineeship. You know, I was making programs very quickly, you know, shooting stuff and recording sound and doing a bit of editing, and so it was just a great entree into a career, and I've been just doing that ever since, non-stop. Haven't stopped, really.
Do you look back on that as like, this is the way to get into filmmaking? You've actually just got to put your feet on the ground and just do the work, build a folio. Is kind of the best route in? It's
one of the routes. I mean, I think with filmmaking, it's very competitive, obviously, because it's such an exciting industry and a lot of people want to be in it. But the great thing is now is that the technology is much more in everybody's hands. Like, you can access cameras, you can much more cheaply, you can edit at home. You know, most people, not all people, have access to those, you know, to that technology. So it's much more democratized now. So yes, making a film, you know, there's no real excuse why you can't really make a film. And you will be judged by the quality of your storytelling and filmmaking. And of course, there's lots of, there's much more opportunities now, like around Australia, for you to do film courses, and, you know, film is studied in school, and, you know, obviously there's, you know, you can access that material. So other people that I know, like Ivan Sen, you know, wanted to study film. He made shorts. He went on to university, did a BA there, and then went on to film school. I think it's always important to get, I mean, for me, I went to the film school as well because I wanted to know the language and the history of cinema so that I could talk about, you know, film to the crews and other people. I needed the language and the theory behind it. So it's always good to know the context and the canon of work that sits behind filmmaking, and the language and the theory around it, but then you can throw that away and once you know it, bend the rules and do whatever you want. And I think that's the great thing about filmmaking, it's continually reinventing itself.
Now, your parents were both activists. Were they on board with this as a career path?
Yeah, absolutely. They encouraged me. You know, my father said to me, who was Charles Perkins, he said, look, you know, you get an opportunity, that's fine, but it's what you make of that opportunity. It's what you do with it. So I was very conscious that, you know, through this traineeship, I'd be given an opportunity and I was going to really do the best I could. And I've strived to pursue excellence in everything I do, and I've found that success builds success. But that takes hard work and it takes sacrifice, and You know, when everyone else is at the pub and going out and you're still reading that book or researching that film or, you know, editing that film or getting organised or making the sandwiches to, you know, feed the crew.
Oh, really?
Everyone else is having a good time and you're there doing the hard work. You know, that hard work pays off, but it only comes with hard work. So the opportunity that you might get, you then have to really apply yourself.
Well, you've put Indigenous storytelling at the forefront of your work. Do you feel that representation matters significantly, and have things improved in the years that you've been working?
They certainly have. In the 20 years, you know, 20 years ago, there just weren't Indigenous people on television. The only place you'd see them is maybe running across a football field. Now we've seen the change, you know, we've seen that the ABC and SBS, that's part of their core content that they create. And we're seeing even in the commercial channels, Indigenous people getting mainstream roles. I think we've got a long way to go. If you look at Australia, how Australia compares to, say, England and America, you see much more diversity. Obviously, we've still got a long way to go in terms of the LGBT community being represented. You know, we have a particular reluctance for, you know, casting Asian people of colour on our screens. So, got a lot of work to do. We are behind the rest of the world in terms of representation, but that said, you know, we know that we've got to get better at it.
Just wrapping up, you mentioned this earlier, but when you do look back on your teenage years, you have some regrets, you said. What would you do differently if you could?
Well, I think I would have taken up the opportunity that education offered me rather than deliberately avoiding learning anything much. So I think, yeah, I would have loved to read the classics. I would have loved to understand more about Australian history and religious history, political history. You know, I would have just liked to know and to digest more of the knowledge that's on offer in the education system. But look, I was a little bit of a rebel and I had to do that to go and do something else. You know, I had to get out of Canberra, go leave that, and that enabled me to become a filmmaker. I might have gone on to university and done something quite differently, but that was the path. And I don't really regret it. I just feel the loss of it now in my later life. And I think maybe, you know, I might return to education and perhaps return to university, or not return, go to university, in this later stage of my life, just to enjoy all the richness that is there in the human history of knowledge, you know, that's available and that universities offer.
That sounds great. I mean, look, a rebellious streak is not always a bad thing. I mean, do you feel like you've still maintained that to this day?
I don't think it's a rebellious streak. I think it's probably just a ambition and a great aspiration, you know, aspiration to push outside of boundaries, I think. And I think I, you know, got that very much from my father, to not accept the status quo, to want something more, to push for more, to live life. You know, he was a kidney transplant survivor, and so he realised the value of life, and he engendered in us a real appreciation of, like, you've got a very limited time on the planet. You know, it's up to you how you're going to live your life, live it to the fullest, and, you know, make the choices that will give you a fulfilling and challenging and therefore interesting life.
Rachel, thanks so much for your time today.
Pleasure.
Hey everyone, if you enjoyed that video, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, or find more of our stuff at studentedge.com.au.